Hello, YouTube world. I want to say hello, happy fall. I'm Kalyna Spooner, and this is the fifth episode of the Paperless Conversation hosted by VKS. I'm super excited about this one because not only do we have a returning veteran, Spero Zervos, who is our customer success manager, but we also have Joseph Cooper here, everyone, in his beautiful garage with his fancy woodworking tools. And Joe Cooper, how long have you been at VKS now?
Going on 3 years with CMP, 2 years with VKS.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah.
And remind me, I know you're part of the dev side, so the software, the back end part of it, but maybe I thought I'll let you kind of introduce yourself to the world of our podcast and then we'll jump into today's topic.
Okay, nice. Well, first of all, I say I listen to many hours of podcasts every day, so this is super cool to actually be on one. It's my first time, very excited. And I got to shout out my favorite podcast here at the time. I love Exponent with Ben and James, and I love the Cyberwire. So let me just throw those out there. Okay, so about me, I handle all of the on-premise infrastructure integration. So for example, if a customer comes to us and they want to deploy our solution in their on-premise infrastructure, I am the guy that will coordinate that deployment. And then I maintain like the back-end deployment scripts and keeping everything up to date and handling issues as they come up. My title is Systems Integrator.
Yes, that was the word I was looking for. So thank you. So, yes, so you kind of jumped into today's topic, cloud versus server, or as we like to call it, on-prem installation. So, I thought we could kind of talk about that a little bit into more detail, as a lot of you in the manufacturing world, especially now with, Industry 4.0, there's these options now with softwares that you can have it installed locally on your servers, or now, as I mentioned, with Industry 4.0 and IIoT and stuff like that, there's now the option of being hosted on the cloud. So again, my son thinks the cloud is up in the sky in, Toy Story land. But as Joe will say it, it is not Toy Story land. There's a lot more intricacy behind it and a lot more technicality behind it. So I thought we could kind of talk about that today. So Spero will be kind of talking from his point of view with dealing with customers, their integration, how it's done. Again, we're going to talk a little bit about VKS, of course. This is always supposed to be educating the market on, not only technologies, but also about VKS as well. And then Joe will be talking a lot more about the technical aspects and, as he was talking about, the systems integration. So let's begin. Are we ready? Joe, would you like another sip of coffee? Are you good?
Yes.
Oh, he's got a very nice lady mug today, I see.
Yeah, I'm still my wife's mug because
props to your wife.
dishes need to be done.
Exactly.
The baby woke
right.
up very early this morning, so
Yes, it's true. We all have very young children. So throughout podcasts, you'll see us taking multiple sips. Well, as anyone at home who has young kids can understand, coffee is salvation to us.
Yeah, whatever gets you through.
Exactly.
Add some orange juice here.
Oh my God, Joe's ready. You want some mimosa in there too, bud?
Is that part of the podcast?
Yeah, we're part of the podcast.
Oh, you didn't get that memo?
Mimosas.
No, I missed the mimosa memo, but clearly I got the wood shop memo. You mentioned it earlier, Kalyna. I've decided that I would do this from my garage. I know this isn't a woodworking podcast, but I wanted to show off all the tools that I collected. So here we are.
Listen, our fans are going to love it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's start, gents. All right, so first question that I'd like to ask, that again, we get asked all the time, is what would be the main distinctions between on-premise installation versus the cloud? So Joe, maybe I'll let you kind of dive into that one.
Okay, yeah. So, I'll bring it back to a point that we had, a discussion that we had in our, chat leading up to this, where we were framing the discussion as SaaS versus server. Well, everything is a server, even the application that's being brought to you via our cloud solution, they're on servers too. So the more precise distinction would be you've got a cloud or you've got on-premise. So the cloud is, well, the server is hosted in a data center that
Okay.
we have control over, obviously, and we're maintaining those servers and making sure they're up to date, and that they're providing the application to you at we'll call it a public endpoint, so to speak. You can access the application over the public internet. On-premise server means that the server is hosted in your local infrastructure, whether that be the physical bare metal servers in your server room, or perhaps you yourself have your own, data center or cloud hosting provider, and that, generally speaking, it's going to be on a virtual machine. So that virtual machine is providing the resources
Okay.
for the server.
Perfect. All right. So that basically entails what the main distinctions are. We do get a lot of questions also, and Spero, you can attest to this. Who owns the data? That is, customers always want to own the data. That's what especially, with ITAR and, the medical customers, most of them, they tend to go more towards the on-prem solution versus the cloud. So yeah, so just in and of itself, especially VKS, right? Every software company is different. They all have their own, regulations and stuff like that. But when it comes to VKS, who owns the data? Maybe Spero, you can kind of jump in and chime on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe we can talk a little bit about the levels of security as well, because, both options are secure. It just depends on if you have those additional restrictions, regulations, certifications, validations that you need to take there. Customer always owns the data, no matter what. It's primarily, where is the data stored? Is
Okay.
it stored on the servers? Is it stored at your location? Both sides are secure, but if you're dealing with additional regulations, like you talked about ITAR, you talked about medical, maybe FDA Part 11 compliant, or what is it, ISO 13485, or some of those medical type of ones, that adds an additional factor into things where you may want to control additional things.
Mm-hmm.
Like the cloud solution that we have, we push the updates out. We do, primarily quarterly updates, and we push updates out to the cloud and push everything out there, and it sends it out. Somebody with additional regulations might say, hey, I don't want the update yet, or I want to test the update before everybody gets it, because I need to validate things and check things and all of that. And that's where the on-premise comes into play. And I think we'll talk about this a little bit later on as well, is having the on-premise a solution for multi-environments, where you can have a testing environment and test out updates and then push them
Okay.
to a production and things like that.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think that makes sense too, right? The cloud, again, we're going back to some of I don't want to call them benefits, but some of the differences between and the distinctions between cloud versus server. So another question is, again, I get this a lot when I have demos with customers or just at trade shows or just general inquiries that we get from the website, but can companies host on their own private cloud? And Joe, you kind of mentioned that, right? That most of whether it's on-premise installation or whether it's on a cloud, it's kind of all connected somehow or something. Again, I'm not technical, so that's why I have huge
Connected. That's a good word to use.
It's all
You're
connected.
100% correct. That was exactly. It's connected. Yeah. So I'll speak about our solution here at VKS. Yeah, you have the flexibility to deploy our solution pretty much wherever you're hosting your VMs, whether that be physical server, or if you have a cloud hosting provider. If that's a data center that's running VMware, you can deploy it in your VMware, in your vSphere or Hyper-V. So when it comes to like the proprietary cloud hosting providers like Google Cloud or Amazon AWS or Microsoft Azure, currently we have a native Azure image that you could deploy our on-premise solution into your Azure subscription using this native Azure image via the marketplace. And then we're also developing a similar solution for AWS, as companies are increasingly going to this sort of hybrid situation where they still are maintaining some physical servers in their building, and then they're also offloading some of that onto these big cloud hosting providers.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so that really kind of makes sense, right? That eventually, I mean, do you foresee VKS kind of going and partnering with Azure and AWS? I think we're kind of on that trajectory, right? Already a little bit.
Yeah, we're partnered with Azure. That's primarily in our industry. Most folks are going to be running in their local infrastructure Windows. The
Okay.
manufacturing industry is very Windows based. So generally speaking, when people start looking to go to a cloud hosting provider, they're going to start with that hybrid Azure and then some sort of on-prem. A lot of time people will be running Office 365, Exchange Server. So it was just natural to partner with Microsoft in order to provide an Azure solution. So if people wanted to run our on-premise solution in Azure, they could do so, and that's great. It's definitely going that way. I mean, speaking to the sysadmins out there, they'll know they've probably been through some sort of a migration in the past, 12 to 18 months, whether that be
Oh,
their
wow.
Exchange server or their, Office 365. Like that hybrid environment is becoming increasingly common. So we support that. But it
That's
comes with
amazing.
yeah, no, it's awesome that some of the convenience that some of these provide. So you got like SaaS, back to your question about what is the difference between on-prem and SaaS. So SaaS provides extraordinary convenience in that your users are just connecting to the internet and connecting to a URL via their web browser. And that's all you really have to worry about, is just making sure that connection to the internet is good. When you look into the on-premise solution, you're taking on a little bit more responsibility, because
Okay.
now suddenly the solution is going to be in your local infrastructure. Um, so you've got to make sure that your users have the ability to connect to that server in your local infrastructure, and then the the maintenance of that the maintenance of that server is kind of a shared responsibility between us and you. So we'll coordinate a maintenance schedule effectively. But it gives you extraordinary control when something is in your environment. Not only do you have control over, how the data is backed up, how the data
Mhm.
is, access, what sort of credentials are required to access these servers, but you also have more control to integrate it with other systems in your local infrastructure, in your manufacturing environment.
Yeah, and I think that kind of jumps into my next question is, maybe Spiro, you can touch upon this a little bit, but you're talking about the fact that we do offer the flexibility of having both options, of either having that hybrid hosting with either on their private cloud through Azure. So again, I think that that's something that VKS, that we can kind of take pride in, is the fact that we are very flexible when it comes to not necessarily accommodating what our customers are looking for, but just having that flexibility of being like, all right, so some customers, depending on the industry that they're in, right? We talked about ITAR, military, medical. A lot of times those customers want it installed locally on their servers rather than on the cloud. But then in some other industries, we have the flexibility of going on other ones. Maybe Spiro, to kind of jump to the next section, is from your experience with customers, where do VKS customers fit in? Like, out of a percentage, how many of them are on our cloud? How many of them are on the server, would you say?
It's actually kind of varied, because you have the customers that have regulations. So
Mhm.
about 99% of our customers that are ITAR, medical, or any of that are an on-premise solution. There are a few customers that are still using the cloud in that case. And the cloud is still secure. It's not like saying the cloud is open to everybody. You can still restrict access. You can
Mhm.
still do filtering and blocking, and it's all user controlled and everything. So every solution is secure. But then you get customers that are, medical or ITAR, any of that want the on premise. You get customers that just say, I don't like the cloud, and they just want on premise. We're
Mhm.
going on premise. Our directive from corporate is we're doing on premise, and that's it. Or we're doing everything on the cloud. So everybody has their own preference for things. And it's just a mix. It's a blend of everybody wanting what they want, and then us being able to provide it to them, because that's what you got to be. You got to be versatile and have the solutions out there for everybody. So there's a really good blend of on-premise versus cloud, and it's really a dealer's choice there of
Mhm.
what you want, and then we
Yeah.
just provide it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think that that again attests to the software and attests to our team that we have, the staff that's knowledgeable on both ends, right? So Joe, for example, I know that you've done, like you were talked about, you do like a lot of on-prem installation. So maybe you could kind of go just like a quick run through. So I'm a potential customer. I don't have necessarily the infrastructure, the manpower, and again, I'm in the medical industry. So I've decided, all right, I want an on-prem installation. What do they need to get VKS up and running? I'm going to ask a couple multitudes of questions, so bear with me. Because again, I'm trying to be like the customer, right? So
Yeah.
what do I need to get VKS up and running? What's the infrastructure? Do I need a team? Do I need what hardware? I know we get that asked a lot. What hardware do we need to get VKS? And the number one question that we get asked a lot is, well, how long will it take to get VKS up and running if we take the on-prem installation? And do we need a connector? So Joe, that's a lot. That's a mouthful. Again, I'm going to shut my zipper and I'll let you go.
Joe, I
Okay.
might jump in here and there too, because
Yeah.
this is kind of a coordinated effort between
Exactly.
my site and your site on this case too.
For
So, but
sure.
you
For
go ahead,
sure.
sorry, Joe.
Yeah. Keep me organized if I start to ramble here, because I could talk about this stuff for a
Yeah,
long
I can
time.
ramble for a while, and then you can ramble, and we'll
Yeah.
jump
Okay. So great question. If you decide for whatever reason it is that you need on-premise, okay, so in this hypothetical, you're medical, and so you have certain regulations you need to follow. You want to have total control of the solution. Speaking to Spero's previous point, a lot of the times it comes down to just the reporting and the auditing that's required of your company. And
Hmm.
our SaaS is super secure, but with any SaaS, there's going to be a lot of paperwork that you have to fill out in order to, accommodate certain requirements. And it's just easier to go on premise. And we want to make it as easy as possible. In fact, we've done a lot of work. We've worked very hard, actually very proud of the on-premise solution. We really built it for the sysadmin in your team. It's pretty lightweight. It deploys very simply in less than an hour. And so to answer your question specifically, what do you need? Well, you need a place to host it. So you need
Okay.
a physical server or a cloud, a cloud hosting environment. And either one of those these days, 2021, you're going to be running a hypervisor. So that's going to be Hyper-V, that's going to be most likely VMware, but either one, it doesn't matter. We'll deploy on anything. So within your hypervisor, within your VMware, you're just going to provision a single VM. And once that VM has been provisioned, we're going to connect with your IT department, and whether that be a sysadmin, it doesn't have to be a sysadmin. If you want to throw an engineer or product engineer at this process, that's fine, because we've
Hmm.
got experience with these technologies and we can help you deploy even when it comes to setting up your local infrastructure. We're going to require some resources on this we'll call it a host, and those resources are going to depend on how intensely you're going to be using the applications. If you have
Okay.
hundreds and hundreds of users, then you're going to be running on a larger resource load. But at a minimum, I guess I could give you some specific numbers. Generally we'll provision a VM with maybe 4 CPU cores and 8 gigabytes of memory. 8 to 16. 16 is probably what normal customer will start with, and then
Okay.
you're looking at about 250 gigabytes of data to start. So in the scheme of things, that's pretty lightweight. We're a little heavier on the memory because this application, of course, is running a relational database inside of it, and that database is gonna need memory to serve your clients quickly. Then, because those are the resource requirements for of your host. After that, all the work has been done by us. We're going to provide you with an installer package, and then the solution is going to deploy kind of like a software appliance. And if you're not familiar with the term like appliance when it comes to servers, it essentially means that we're going to provide you an installer package that has all of the components of the software stack pre-configured and ready to go. So you're not going to spend time installing MySQL, PHP, Apache, those sorts of things. You're going to get our solution, and it's just going to boom right out of the box. It's going to be up and running within an hour. And the only thing that your team is going to need to worry about is the DNS record for your users in order that their client machines can find your
Okay.
server in the local infrastructure. And then, of course, we're going to want to encrypt traffic between your user. Even if it's in your local infrastructure, you're going to want to encrypt the traffic between your users and the server. And we'll do that with, generally we'll do that with a high-level certificate like a TLS 1.2 or 1.3. And your certificate authority can create that certificate, or we can generate one for you. And that's about it. Connect to your email relay, and boom, you're up and running.
I love it. That's about it.
Yeah,
I'm maybe understood two things in that, but see, this is not only
let me add
educational for the rest of the world, but it's also good for us, right? So there you go. Thank you.
Absolutely.
iOS something 13, 14, 5. There, boom. I got it.
13,485.
Okay,
Let me
but,
add a few things in there too.
yeah, but
If
yeah,
you don't
Spero,
mind,
I'll kind of let you jump in. Sorry, I'm just joking because again, I advised everyone this was going to be technical. So if you're not technical,
Yeah.
the one thing I love is Joe. Whenever I've had sessions with him, whether it's you are so clear, you should have been a teacher. Like you're very eloquent, and the way that you convey information is very, as they call it. I don't want to say you help me.
that.
You could write a book, 101. What is it? Dummies 101 for software integration. You could write that, Joe.
Man, that's really a nice compliment. That's kind of the goal when you start to get into this stuff, because there's so much weird lingo and that sort of thing. You really got to try and the good ones, and I don't think I'm that good at it, but the really good ones can communicate those sorts of bizarre concepts in really simple terms. That's definitely what I strive for.
All right, now I'll kind of let Spero kind of jump in if there's anything else that you kind of wanted to talk to or kind of attest to or anything like that.
Yeah, and in the same lines, just the same thing. And you can tell Joe's knowledgeable about all this stuff just by listening here. You can tell that Joe knows everything. And just a little bit more about the process itself. Like you're always going to be coordinating with a success representative from VKS. So like myself, customer success manager. So we're going to be coordinating, and we have documentation, we have questionnaires, we have infographics on all the items that are installed for the VKS server. We provide you with a lot of stuff. And one of the important things to know is that we are as interactive as you want with this whole process. So, and we get different varying customers that want different things. Hey, I'm not too familiar with this. Can you help me out and do the installation? Absolutely. Hey, let's coordinate with Joe. Let's get everybody on a call. Joe will show you exactly what's going on. Hey, if you want to record it, record it. We get customers that say, you can't touch the system, but you can look over my shoulder and you can tell me what to do. Okay. Hey, perfect. We'll do that. We'll get a session going. We will not touch your system. We will just, Joe will be hanging out over your shoulder and say, hey, can you do this? Please select this and go there. And then we get other customers that say, we're going to do it ourselves. And we don't want you to do the install. We don't want you to do the updates. We want to do it ourselves. And that's perfectly fine too, because we have documentation and we have information and we have Joe and other personnel that can help and support and answer questions and do all this stuff. So we have full support for anything that you want and all the varying needs that customers want. Whether you want, us to do everything for you and do the installs, whether you want hands off, we have a solution for it. And that's one of the important things and one of the versatilities of us as a team as well, because it's a team effort. I'll be coordinating with Joe or one of the other personnel, and we'll be getting the install going, everything scheduled. Joe goes in and does his thing, and then I'm communicating with the customers and talking with them and providing training after the fact. So we have that whole process and that whole flow going.
Yeah, and I think that's like you said it about just it's teamwork, right? It's everybody works well together. And you were talking about having those resources. So when you do become a VKS customer, our dev team and our technical writers have built an amazing, we call it our VKS Knowledge Center. And it can be anything. You have a question, you have a thought, or you're not sure about something, you literally type it in and you will 99.99% find either an article written about it or any technical documentation or support you need. So again, not to toot our own horns, but VKS, that's one thing that,
but we're
again,
going to.
but that's one thing that I take,
Our podcast.
yeah, that we do amazing customer support. We do amazing
Mhm.
feedback, and we can, like you said, Spero, we can be part of the entire process. Or if you just need the software, here you go. And, like my mom says, the door is always open. So VKS is
Yeah,
always there to help a hand if you need it. So
absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, well, since we're plugging our solution, well, I mean, let me just add one other thing
here
that
we go.
we're excited about. And this is mostly just for the sysadmins who, I don't know if there's sysadmins listening to this podcast, but if you're a decision maker, you probably have sysadmins that you work with. We designed it to be as easy as possible to deploy, but we didn't. I'm speaking about our on-premise solution right now. It shouldn't be a black box necessarily, because if you're trying to put something in your local infrastructure, the reasons you're doing so is because you want to have full control over it. So that's something also that we prioritize when we were designing or architecting this particular solution. Once you get it in your infrastructure, you have total root access to it. You can add whatever security hardening that you want to add in addition to what we've already done. You can add, third-party backup tools to it. It's designed to adapt to your, your system. You surely have done a lot of work to put together infrastructure, so we want to fit right in there. And that's something that I just want to mention there, because a lot of sysadmins, when they hear about a new server that they have to install, like the first thing that they're going to think about is like, okay, how much new work is this going to create for me? How much work do I have to do to adapt this to what we already have, what our protocols are for backup, for security, for maintenance, and all of that stuff. We have thought and put a lot of effort into making it as easy as possible for the sysadmins to maintain these servers. And then, like you both said, we're very available. So in terms of the on-premise solution, we support everything that comes in that package. So the full stack, from the operating system to all the dependencies to the application code. And yeah, I just wanted to add that since we're plugging.
Well, yes, we
I
do.
really wanted to plug.
No, we need to plug. This is a podcast. Again, I've said it from the beginning. It's a podcast to educate the market for people that are just interested in learning more about, what are the distinctions between, SaaS versus on-prem. But it's also an opportunity for us to just, showcase VKS and to, hopefully showcase it so that we get some new clientele, or even just to educate some of our existing customers or some of our customers, or even potential leads that might not have known that we offer both options. So
Yeah, totally.
So I want to thank both of you for coming today. Cheers. Let's do a little cheers with our cups up. I got my Busy Bee cup. Joe's got his wife, and we have Batman. Trusted Spero with his Batman. So if anyone has any other questions, you might want to book a demo. Again, you can always visit our website at www.vksapp.com. The link will be up at the end of the podcast. And again, I want to thank you both for joining our Paperless Conversation. And stay tuned for the next one. It's going to be quite interesting. So stay tuned for that. There's going to be lots of jokes and lots of coffee. So, all right, gentlemen, again, thank you so much for coming. And that's a wrap on the Paperless Conversation. Cheers.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure.